Josh.
Christian.
Good evening, New York. Good evening, Josh. Good morning from Hong Kong.
Yeah, it's a little bit, I think the greatest movie for Americans was Lost in Translation. For going.
And I feel, Josh, I feel like that. I feel like that because last time when I saw you was London in March for the sales week. Yes.
And you probably went to 5 other countries in between.
Just a little bit, yes.
Are we live here, everybody, by the way? So Cristian Albu from Christie's in Hong Kong, and you have a long title like Deputy Chairperson, Asian, Contemporary, 20th and 21st Century.
Josh, it's an honor. It's an honor to have this conversation with you. And we talk a lot. I mean, I saw you last time in September, no? When you came for the inaugural sale for the Henderson. Christie's moving into a new building, having a new home. But our conversations are so alive and so punchy. So I'm very happy and honored to be part of this. Exactly. Talking about punchiness, I only slept 5 hours last night, so be gentle.
So you're probably ahead of most of the people. We hear from everybody, the town is rocking. Can you feel the difference? Is that true?
Yes, so I walked through the fair yesterday and between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. And Josh, I have to be honest with you, the amount of energy, the amount of enthusiasm, the amount of adrenaline, it's contagious for all the good reasons. I've been in Hong Kong for the past 4 years, since 2021. I'm so happy and I'm so glad to see the world descending upon Hong Kong. And it's not only Art Basel, which is my main job and business, but it's the Rugby 7 and it's all these financial events happening in the same week. The streets are absolutely packed, the traffic is infernal, but again, it's a good sign that everybody is in Hong Kong. And I'm so happy walking through the fair to see so much positiveness from everybody. I mean, I was talking to the galleries, I was talking to the art advisors, and most of the galleries said they sold more sales in one day than they've done last year in 1 week. So that's a good indicator that the business was good for them. So fingers crossed, because everybody needs this positive attitude.
Well, you're talking now as day 2. Some people with really good memories, when you walk through and you see the rehang of the booth, that's the sign that's
correct, yes.
happening. And then
yes.
I would talk to some galleries, some of the bigger ones, and I said, how many days worth would you bring? Sometimes they say 3 or 4. In the last few years, it'd be like, no, just 1. So you'll get a sense, won't you, when you're like, that's gone, that's gone, that's gone.
So in 1 hour, I'm going to go back to the fair and I'm going to report back to see if the booth has changed or not. But I was so genuinely thrilled, Josh, to see so much happiness and positive feedback from the gallerists. And not only from Asia, from Europe, from America, from South Africa, from Southeast Asia. So it's an ocean of possibilities and a variety of artists in the galleries who did a good business yesterday. So fingers crossed for everybody.
So I guess the big question is why or how?
I think it's about good quality. Collectors always respond to fresh names, good quality, great stories, and the way they present themselves. I mean, what caught my attention was the solo booth presentations. I mean, I went to Chantal Crousset from Paris to see the Wade Guiden, and then there was a beautiful little show of Martin Wong's sculptures of PPOW, gallery from New York. And then what else? It was Ashan Adams, the Blank Projects gallery from South Africa, a tapestry, beautiful tapestry presentation. A Plan B gallery from Cluj in Berlin had an incredible facade of an artist, Romanian artist called Tincuța Marin. I think it's the way you present yourself, the stories you tell, resonates with collectors, very much so. And there are many other aspects to the city. M+, the museum, they put on a beautiful show on Picasso with a great marriage between M+ and the Picasso Museum in Paris and the loans from the Reine Sophia. Everybody's making an effort, Josh, and you can see that appreciations from the collectors.
Now we'll come back to the auction business in a bit, but the related question, I've been talking in the Baer Faxt for a while that people want to do business, particularly primary galleries, time to lower the prices. Have they? The auction houses have lowered their estimates and the prices when they're selling. Have the galleries finally started to say, well, maybe, yes, we should come down a bit?
They should do what, Josh?
Drop their prices.
There were no, I mean, when I asked yesterday, they were happy even to give a discount without asking for a discount. So I shouldn't maybe say that on live, but I bought something from a gallery and willingly, without even saying nothing because I love the artist, they say, I'm very happy to give you 10% discount. And I think I was talking to art advisors from London, art advisors from America, and especially from Hong Kong, and they were very willing to give discounts between 10 and 15%. So probably goes back to what you just said. Yes, they are dropping the prices, or in the same time, they brought art which resonates on talks with the collectors from the region, in terms of you don't see things above $5 million or $10 million. So it's a very nice band between 10,000 and $1, $2, $3 million.
That's the sweet spot.
Yes, exactly. That the clients feel comfortable to buy.
Now I'm curious when you brought up the art advisors, because it seemed to me as an art advisor in my spare time that in many parts of Asia, that has not taken root yet.
Yes. So
what do you think of that?
Josh, I have a very strong view. My main business is to work with art advisors. When I was in London and I was working together with my dear loved friend and colleague Catherine Arnold, art advisors occupy exactly the same level of importance and strength in the market like the collectors or the gallerists or the museums. So for me to forge a good relationship with an art advisor is very essential, because they're the ones who can make or break, bring or not bring great clients. And I had about 9 amazing years of learning from the art advisors. Having moved to Hong Kong in 2021, 4 years ago, I didn't have the same knowledge, or I couldn't reach to as many art advisors in Asia. Of course, there are 2, 3, 4 amazing ones, which they've grown their business for the past 2, 3 years. But what I say to the collectors in Asia, and I say that with all my truthfulness and my heart, is trust art advisors. Go to talk to art advisors. Build connections. Build knowledge through the art advisor. Don't be fearful. It's very easy for them to say we don't need art advisors because we can just buy directly from the galleries, or we can cut a good deal with the galleries. That's not true. So art advisors play such an essential role in this microorganism.
Go a little deeper and say why and how. I mean, you're making my argument, but I'm curious to hear it from the outside of, like, you know, I'm a industrialist from Shenzhen, you know, I know what I'm doing, why do I need an art advisor? And you would tell them?
Yeah, first and mostly because they have access to the best. So they have access to the best galleries, and they have access to best artists from the galleries, and they have access to the best pieces from the show, because they have an incredible network when it comes to museums, foundations, when it talks about philanthropy. They have knowledge of how to build a collection. They have great knowledge about art history. They know how to create that rhythm, that river of thoughts between, let's say, modernism, 1900 until today, or they can even take you further back in time and create even a better and a more punchy collection going back from antiquities until contemporary. I think there's a lot of depth that an art advisor can give to collectors, and they can stir them in the right direction. Plus, from my point of view, they have the knowledge of when to buy and when to sell. They have the knowledge of what is good and what is less good, and the knowledge of how to tailor a collection, how to when a collection grows, sometimes you need to sell few things to add other things to make the collection more vertical. So constantly when I go to London or I go to New York, my first point of call is art advisor, to talk to them, to reach them, to have a conversation before even going to the galleries, because the ocean of knowledge should not be dismissed at what an art advisor has. And that's what I'm missing here in Hong Kong, Josh, going back to exactly what you said.
There's still resistance to it.
Yes, the truth is yes. And especially the new buyers, I mean, the most powerful, for example, at Christie's, the most powerful buyers are the mainland China. The second is Hong Kong, third is Southeast Asia. For the past 24 months, Southeast Asia has multiplied in terms of collectors. So it's mainland China, Hong Kong, Southeast Asia, and then Taiwan, and then Korea. So, of course, the fairs are coming in, like Frieze in Korea, like Basel in Hong Kong. You have fairs in Singapore, you have fairs in Shanghai. But what I noticed is missing is this art advisory presence. So I'm trying to infuse into the clients that I know, into the people I met, the importance of having an art advisor.
I would say I asked somebody at Christie's what percentage by dollar Impressionists and contemporary, at least in New York, came through art advisors. They said well over 50%.
Yes, I would be even more generous, Josh.
To 70%.
Yeah, I would be even more generous. Yeah, in my case, the business I get from my clients, 70% is through art advisors. And of course, I know the clients behind, because the trust you build with the art advisors to introduce you to the client, it's so essential. So I would advocate so strongly for the Asian clients to trust the idea of art advisor.
So let's go a little deeper where I'm interested in. It's like, and then you come in as a non-Asian. I think that's kind of like an interesting subject for me as a non-Asian who's gone there 5 or 6 times. It's like, how I don't know the exact, you know where I'm getting to. I'm not exactly sure how to phrase the first question within that. Is there advantage, disadvantage, both? What's the feel like both personally and as an industry?
They're both, Josh. I had both advantages and disadvantages. Advantages because I know about Western art. And my role at Christie's was to bring and to bridge Western art, to bring Western art to Asia and to take Asian art to London, Paris, New York. So my role from the beginning is to bring new names to the Asian collectors, and don't disqualify or I don't want to dismiss that the Asian collectors have not been buying Western art before I arrived. That's not true. They've been buying Western art for many, many, many decades. But they were buying in London, New York, Paris, physically. Now, what I have to continue doing is to bring physicality to Hong Kong. So to bring Adrian Guéné, Gerhard Richter, to bring Cecily Brown, to bring Jean-Michel Basquiat physically to be sold in Hong Kong. So for the clients, collectors to physically stay in front of the paintings. I want to respect my colleagues in Asia because I learn constantly from them about Asian art, and they learn constantly from me about Western art. So once you have this great marriage of thoughts between the colleagues, our responsibility is to put good sales together. That's what it matters the most, is to make a sale look, everything is transparent, to make a sale look viable, to make a sale look successful, to break records, to bring new names, and Josh, most importantly, to show that there's no borders between artists. So a lot of Asian artists were schooled or spent time in Europe and America. We as an auction houses or in general, we think everything is within borders. It's a Chinese artist or a Taiwanese artist or a Japanese artist. Artists don't think about borders. The way they create things is borderless. So what we're trying to do in ourselves is create dialogues between artists. Yeah, it's very simple to say there is a connection between Zawuchi, Chitechun, and Soulage. There's a connection between Sanyo and Picasso and Matisse. So that's what we're trying to do, to tell stories in our cells.
Here's my other question, and as I've been going to other places, I'm going to the Middle East, to Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi, Dubai shortly. You're talking about Richter. So
Yes.
I've known Richter my whole adult life. Does Richter's work mean the same thing to me as it means to somebody who's raised in, say, Shanghai or Jakarta? I mean, it's an assumption that we Westerners sort of have. Of course, it's the same thing.
It's not.
Can you go deeper into that? And for me, that's where it gets really interesting.
Yes. It's not, Josh, and this is my own humble personal opinion. The sensibilities are completely different. The way I look at Zawuchi, for example, I don't feel the same like a Chinese or Taiwanese or a Hong Kong collector feels about Zawuchi. Their feelings, their emotions are infinitely much deeper than mine. I constantly look and I learn and I seek more advice, and probably is the same with the Gerhard Richter. So for them, you need to tell them stories that where the Gerhard Richter is coming from, what was happening in Eastern Germany in 1950s, 1960s. So it's a lot about history, both political and economical, and you need to be able to tell these stories to the Asian collectors. And on top of that, travel to see the exhibitions in the museums. That makes a big difference. So I went to Japan a few times. I go to Japan quite a lot. But the Gerhard Richter exhibition in Japan 2-3 years ago was in the National Museum of Western Art was phenomenal. So to go to Japan and to see an exhibition of Claude Monet or of Schiele, or to see the exhibition of Louise Bourgeois at the Mori Museum, it makes a huge difference for the collectors. So bringing those Western art exhibitions into Asia, it's fundamentally essential for them to understand a Gerhard Richter or to understand the Louise Bourgeois the way Western collectors understand.
It's not only the art, it's sort of the language around it. So I always come back to a friend of mine who was a major curator at a big New York museum, and she was in Qatar talking to the woman who controls everything, and she said something about post-war art. And the Sheikha looked at her and said, excuse me, which war are you talking about?
Yes.
And it was like a wake-up call that the language that we use is not necessarily so correct. What is modern art? You know, we have MoMA, that's like old art, but it's modern art. But
Yes.
what is contemporary art that we think of now, 100 years from now? It's like it'll change category. So the language we use is a different thing, not just the history of, you know, Picasso and then this and then, you know, in a hierarchy. So can I tell you the word we were having this talk about with some other auction house that I forbid you to ever use around the auction?
Yeah, I know which one you're going to use. It's called curating. Yes. Yes, exactly. You know, I started my job in auction house about 15, 17 years ago, and I did that mistake at the beginning very, very often. About 7, 8 years ago, I got a real psychological punch in my face from a very good gallerist, quite few in London. And they said to me and to us, stop abusing the word curator. None of you are curators. Curators go to school for 4 or 5 years. Their mind is completely different. It's not about economics, it's about aesthetics, it's about telling a story, it's about taking chances. The way they put on a show is nothing to do with the estimate of how much it's going to make. And from that moment onwards, Josh, I kept on telling my colleagues, which keep on making this mistake. We're curating shows. No, we curating sales. No, you're not curating anything at all. So do not use this word. You're putting together a sale. That's it. But
You know what they mean when they say that, your auction house?
what?
Means we don't have that much stuff. So instead of 60 lots, we have 40, so it was carefully curated. We didn't get enough stuff, but I still have that fight.
Yeah, it's not about being fearful. It's about respect. You cannot use curating sales. It's ridiculous. It's just an abomination. You don't. So I keep on, and my colleagues, the young ones, we curating a sale. No, you're not curating BS nothing. You're just putting together what you can put together from whatever you can have. Yeah, or your responsibility is to do great sales and responsible sales, yeah, and not take risk. And because we're so transparent in the art market, everybody will see and everybody will judge. So your responsibility is to create a story and to be responsible ethically and economically to your seller and to your buyer. That's what you have to do.
Well, thank God that word, I'm going to hear it again this May sometime. But one thing that I learned the last time I was there is actually how small the Impressionist contemporary market is by dollar in your territory. Because we think of it in New York as like, that's it, and everything else is sort of like brown furniture. But it's what percentage of Christie's Hong Kong is Impressionist and modern?
So you're absolutely right. What we've been doing since I arrived, and even before me, because I had a very great colleague called Elaine Holt and most importantly Tan Bo in China, mainland China. It's about education. And I said to my colleagues, we need to build this market step by step. Don't throw expensive Picassos and Monets and Van Gogh. The Asian collectors, they've been collecting Impressionists for a long time. Remember Japan, 1980s. So we're not reinventing the wheel here, but they've been buying in New York and in London, not in Hong Kong. We've been having sales in Hong Kong since 1986, but what we're trying to do is, Josh, is gradually and very importantly in certain economical bands bring Impressionism and modern art to Asia to physically sell it in Hong Kong. So bring $500,000 US, $1 million US, 1.5, 2 million, 3 million US, and do it thoughtfully. So don't bring something which is not going to sell. Don't bring something which is overpriced and fresh or not fresh to the market. So be respectful to the audience. When we open, if you remember, when we opened Christie's at the Henderson, which is Zaha Hadid Architects building, and we moved into a new home, we brought two important Impressionist paintings. One was a Claude Monet Nymphéas that sold for $30 million US, and the other one was a Van Gogh, which sold for $32 million US. Josh, both of them were guaranteed, which meant there was no risk, and we would not create any imbalance.
Well, that was with all the attention of the Henderson spaces, too risky to bring those naked. I mean, that was like essential. I mean, would have been.
Yeah. And I said to my colleagues and to all of us and to the management, that sale has to be a successful sale. No house guarantee, no risk, no madness. It has to show confidence into the market. So that was one moment in time with the Claude Monet and Van Gogh.
Has the thinking evolved now that you're into sort of second season, so to speak?
Again, we've taken, I think we've got only one house guarantee risk. Everything else, it's third-party guarantee. We want to build safe sales. We want to build confidence into the market. So another segment which we brought to Asia, Josh, and is surrealism. Especially because last year was 100 years of Surrealism. Last year was 150 years of Impressionism. So that's why we brought the Claude Monet and Van Gogh. But we've been bringing Magritte to Asia since 2 years ago, since 2023. And each one of them came third-party guaranteed. Again, it's about taking no risk and showing confidence into the market and talking to the collectors and infusing this idea of how important Surrealism has been as a
Let me ask you a guarantee question in general. There was a period of time where the third-party guarantee turned everybody off from bidding. Like, I don't want to bid. And it seemed like at a certain point it suddenly shifted to that brought out more bidders. Is that true? And if so, can you explain it?
In Asia, it's a bit different from Europe and from America. Third-party guarantee is a sign of positiveness. It's a sign of confidence. It's a sign that somebody loves the painting and wants to be the owner of the painting. That might or might not necessarily chase the painting if it keeps on bidding. And every single third-party guarantee we brought to Asia and was guaranteed by an Asian collector, we made sure that we talked about the painting with the collector, and the collector is happy to be the owner if they lands with the painting. That's the back of the principle all the time.
Where maybe it's more in New York, where somebody saw that symbol, they're like, well, that guy's getting a better deal than me, or I don't want to do it. And it sort of lasted for a few years, and I'm not sure it matters so much anymore to the psychology. Yeah. I mean, what I've learned for some of my clients that third-party guarantees are like crack cocaine. Once they taste it, they're hooked on it until they make a mistake.
Okay, I'm guilty of that because one of my biggest clients, I only show them paintings which have museum history and great provenance, and they are very happy to guarantee. And they started with the Magritte, Josh, and then there's no end to that. So they are coming forward to say, what can we guarantee next? What can we buy next? And 90% of the pieces they guaranteed, they chased and they bought. They didn't want just to make money, so they wanted to end up with the pieces. Correct, and I'm very fearful to force somebody to say, and it's against my principle to say guarantee this because you're going to make money. It's going to come back and bite me in the bum. Yeah.
For not putting up any money.
Yes, yes.
Where did this come from? Thank you very much.
Much pleasure.
So we'll see.
Yes.
I'm going to leave with this one question I've asked others. It's like, because I'm New York based, in May, middle of May, headline after the week of the auctions, what's the New York Times or the Journal going to say in 72 point
about New York? So what we've got here at the Henderson, Josh, is the Leonard and Louise Reggio collection. So thank God we have a new home in the Henderson, because now we can showcase the New York highlights during the Art Basel Hong Kong, and we can have people walking through the doors and get a bit of a glimpse of what's going to happen in New York in May. So we had a lot of... Yes, yes. The Mondrian is great. The Giacometti is my favorite. So it's, yeah. So we dedicated a whole corner just for the Reggio. So for the Asian collectors to get a bit of a preview of New York.
But what are we going to be saying about the art market? Everybody is looking for New York in May. Is it going to say everything's fine? Is it going to say we're roaring back? Is it going to say global worries?
I have two words. One of them is positiveness, and the other one is cautiousness. So there's a lot of, as long as, I go back to you, what you always say, as long as something is well priced.
Or cautious positiveness. I don't know how we...
Josh, and as long as it's quality, I have no fear for nothing. And I feel New York is going to put on a good show. I feel positive about. Having seen London, and London was phenomenal in March. Not easy, Josh, but they told a good story. Christie's told a good story. You walked into that room and a great display of London School. So
it's a good time to be a specialist in the auction business, isn't it?
I think it's a good time to love art.
Well, on that, let's let you go back into the fair, buy some more art, and look forward to seeing you.
And I'm going to send you, Josh, I'm going to send you updates to tell you if galleries changed booths or not. Okay. Thank you so much, Josh.
And Baer Faxt live from, wish I was there, but we have our best eyes there on the ground. Thank you, Christian.
Good night, America. Bye, Josh.